All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello. Oh, wow. It's a Friday show. I'm right in the middle of all the gunk that comes with COVID. It's pretty awful.
It's not fake. That's real.
Can't sleep. Can't eat. It's all awful. So I'm going to do the best I can today. We'll see. I may have to tag team Kim and get out, early if need be. But I will tell you that we are packed and there's so much going on. I didn't want to leave this show without doing it. And I also know, and Kim can tell you this, and Albert, of course, lives it, I'm a great inspiration to young people. And I want young people to realize that even in the face of adversity, you should show up, try to do your job.
Who is having that conversation?
Well,
now
I think it's
feel
important.
bad for calling in sick when I had COVID. Now I feel really guilty.
Well, you didn't call in sick. You actually worked.
Yeah, well.
You just didn't sound good, which is, I think, the key. And still, since I sound acceptable, I showed up. But you didn't call in sick. You were actually quite impressive. So I thank you for that. COVID is just roaring through America and through the world. The COVID numbers are insane. The COVID numbers in California are off the chart. Pretty crazy. But we've got a great show today. I've got a chunk of Trump that is overflowing. I also, Donald Trump is a corrupt man, deeply corrupt. He is probably the most corrupt president we've ever had. And in a moment, I'm going to share a story with you that speaks to a bit of that. I mean, there are a bunch of examples from his presidency. But in a moment, there is a new breaking story that really reflects exactly what I'm saying. So, I want to correct something that happened on the show yesterday. And do we still have that correction and apologies?
Correction and apologies.
Yeah, we never use that, but I would say what I like about that is the little ding at the end. That's what I like. I like
Correction
right at the end. There's a ding.
apology.
Yeah, I like that. Anyway, yesterday I made the point that Kim, who had yellow carded Chris Hultgren, who was in our chat. Here's Chris, who normalizes all corruption in this case by saying, "Oh, well, he's in good company in D.C." Chris, are you ready for a timeout? Opinions are fine, but you are being really mean-spirited today and affecting the atmosphere here. Yellow card, Kim said.
Yeah. I
So-
stand by it. I stand by it.
Right, and I don't watch the chat closely enough, so I kind of turned it over to Kim, and when there's a yellow card, that's when it comes to me. And I was saying, I don't know if I would have yellow carded the guy, and I certainly want the yellow cards to come through me. But after reviewing it, the thing that made me feel as though Chris deserved to be yellow carded was not this stuff that, like this run-of-the-mill crap that he always serves up. Like everybody's corrupt in Washington. Kamala Harris on her birth certificate says she's Caucasian. Okay, fine. That's you can write that stuff. I'm not troubled in the least by that. We can address that in a moment. But when you did yesterday, Chris, insult those poll workers who are part of the Rudy Giuliani case, they won their defamation suit against Rudy Giuliani. And Giuliani did everything he could to get, and continues to do everything he can, to avoid paying the judgment. It's over $100 million. He ruined their lives. These are people who are public servants. They had to move multiple times. There were death threats. It was a brutal takedown of these two innocent people by Rudy Giuliani, with his BS story about how they were throwing the election for Joe Biden. When you put them down in the way you did yesterday, you're deserving of a yellow card. And it's for that reason that I back up Kim on the yellow card.
What this means to me is that you need to trust your people. You need to, you give me the power. You give me the you say oversee the chat. You need to trust me when I tell you that it's risen to a level of a warning.
I think it makes me want to review it, but I think you can be a little trigger happy.
No, you need to trust the processes and protocols that you've put in place, my friend.
Yeah. Well, Mark holds the power. Trust the Kim people power. Oh, yeah. I trust Kim, says shadow producer Calvin Wong.
Right. Yeah.
This is why I love Mark and Kim. Well,
here I'm here for them. They know that I want a nice atmosphere here and one of discussion.
But here's what I like. Here's
collegiality.
I like that Chris is in the chat because he stirs the pot and it makes it interesting.
Yeah.
But when he goes after somebody personally who's been involved in like the Giuliani case like that, I just feel as though I have a thing for those two women because I felt they were persecuted and Giuliani was the persecutor and he invented stories about how they were trying to overthrow the election for Joe Biden and it led to death threats and literal danger to them. And so when you somehow stir that pot, I've got a problem. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to discuss the merits of anything with anyone on here, but you've got to concede certain things to fact. And so I had a problem with that. So yeah, I'll stand by the yellow card is just a warning. It doesn't kick them out.
That's right.
So you were right, Kim.
So
and
wait. Say that again?
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Well, I mean, you know what you could do, Kim? You listen to what I'm doing because you never do this.
That's not true.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, it's
My bad.
True.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. You do not. You and Donald Trump are very similar that way. You
What?
don't like to apologize. Yeah,
Say
you
that.
don't like to apologize.
There's never been anything like this.
I'm just saying, Kim. So,
I make
but you
a
were right
mistake,
about this
I own
yesterday.
it. Yeah.
Kim knows exactly what she is doing, and she is never wrong. Says, well,
What?
I don't know about that, but all right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to start you with something that is not Trump-related, and it is not even politics-related, just to get you up to speed. If you were looking for a ride this weekend from Justin Timberlake, you may have to look elsewhere. Yeah. His license has been suspended at the DWI hearing. And at that same hearing, the judge threatens his lawyer with a gag order. Justin Timberlake appeared virtually at this hearing, that was just this morning, for his driving while intoxicated case. There he is. We show you the picture. And he was told by the judge that his license would be suspended, and the lawyer was admonished over irresponsible comments, and admonished is a ding word. Timberlake is 43, and he was there in court because he got pulled over in that entire incident in which he was clearly intoxicated. But the judge today going after the musician's attorney, Edward Burke Jr., for irresponsible comments that he made at the last court hearing. He said that if it comes off as an attempt to poison the case before it even begins, I'll issue a gag order. The judge even threatened to issue this gag order if the attorney continued to make such comments. So after considering a motion to dismiss the case against Timberlake, the judge suspended the singer's license in New York State because he refused to take a breathalyzer test when he was pulled over. The license will be suspended for the duration of the case. The hearing lasted roughly a half hour, ended with another admonishment to the lawyer. And after the hearing, the lawyer that received the admonishment, who received it, he said that he plans on filing motions and letting the content of those motions and the arguments contained therein speak for themselves. Justin Timberlake out a driver's license for the next 30 days.
Yeah, if you refuse to take the test, right, when you get pulled over, refuse to take a breathalyzer or what have you, isn't that, I thought that was an automatic license suspension. Like they take it away.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I maybe. I mean, that seems like something that
Google it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you have to agree to some kind of test.
Yeah.
Like you can do the blood test. You can also, but I'm not really sure of that. Somebody else may know that. I don't have a lot of experience with DWI. But Mike Ekstrom, how about you? First in with a super sticker.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Thank you, Mike. And Kathleen Bryant with a 20.
Big shout out.
I so appreciate that. We are a crowd-funded show, and it means so much when the crowd does fund. Spencer Jaffe, my father thinks Kamala is still a lightweight. He's wrong. Trump picked J.D. Vance, for crap's sake. I mean, come on. Yeah, I'll have a story about J.D. Vance here in just a moment. In fact, I'll do it next. Then I've got a chunk of Trump. I mean, lightweights, you can't find a lighter weight than Donald Trump. The one thing he does is he cons. He makes stuff up and cons. So, in fact, well, I'll do in chunk of Trump. You must hear it. I'll give you the reason that entire thing at the Black Journalist Convention started late. It had to do with Trump. So I'll get to that in just a moment. But thank you for those contributions, all of you. In fact, there was one other that I want to grab. A really cool, on Paxlovid, Teresa Wilson said, I made my sister, they had a rebound because of it. I wouldn't take it unless you're really sick, she said. Yeah.
Did you buy it?
I'm not taking it yet. I'm not taking it yet.
Well, if you're going to take it, you got to start. Like, you need to,
They said you have 5 days. So I'm not too worried about it yet. But maybe I should be. I don't know. I got a really nice and substantial contribution that I wanted to acknowledge. And I hope I can find her. So sorry that I have it handy. I hadn't planned to do it right now. That's the reason I don't have it handy, but I'm so excited. Here it is. Susan W. became a $50 Patreon subscriber, member, supporter, whatever we call them. The people on Patreon make this show go, along with the people on PayPal. So if you're a PayPal or Patreon supporter in the community of people who give us money every month, you are the only reason that this show exists. It would not exist without you. And when somebody steps up and gives us $50 a month, wow. So thank you, Susan W. I'm not using her last name because I don't want her to get...
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she just came through Patreon. Like if it was a correspondence or something, I might treat it differently. But Susan, you are... Do they still say it anymore, Albert? The bomb? No, the kids don't say the bomb anymore, do they? When did that go out, Albert?
Better than the bee's knees.
Yeah. No, the bee's knees went out in the 50s.
Albert, thank you.
They don't say the bomb anymore, though, do they? Albert's gone out to walk the dogs, I'm sure. He's not even on the... Yeah. Mark, I set things up. It's great. Florida's great. Gotta run.
Enjoy. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Viewfinder says you get 5 days, but the sooner the better. So...
Okay, thank you. I mean, I have to, tell you, it's horrible, but I feel like I want to tough it out rather than take the medicine. But the thing about the medicine is that the medicine keeps you out of serious trouble, he said. It keeps you out of hospitalization type thing.
Yeah. And long COVID, too.
Right? Oh, long COVID? Oh, wow. Well, anyway, you're all the bomb, and I thank you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
If you want to become a Patreon or a PayPal supporter, the links to both right under this video and all our videos. So, Albert, you're not here, so I can't do a chunk of Trump. Is that what's going on? Are you back yet?
Oh, no, but I can do it. Hold on.
Can you?
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me get to it. Here it is.
This is your chunk of Trump.
Open wide.
Ready?
Here comes your chunk of Trump.
It's my favorite food.
With your first bite, here's Mark Thompson.
I have a feeling it's going to be beautiful.
Well, now we know why that disastrous Trump event started so late. Donald Trump almost didn't take the stage at all. That's the National Association of Black Journalists conference. He was terrified of being fact-checked. They made a provision, Trump's people, that he cannot be fact-checked.
Wonder why.
It started more than an hour late. That was the conversation with Rachel Scott, Fox News anchor Harris Faulkner, and is it Katia Goba? Trump complained about the delayed start, saying that it had taken half an hour for the people in the conference to get their sound equipment to work. But apparently, he was trying to divert from something else, which was his demand that there be no fact-checking. He did not want to be fact-checked, but we could not let him on the stage without fact-checking, said the president of the NABJ. The NABJ had arranged for Trump's interview to be simultaneously fact-checked online in collaboration with PolitiFact. At one point, Trump's team requested that the NABJ not post fact-checking to its social media accounts or allow the moderator to discuss the fact-checking on stage. Our whole team stood our ground, said the president of the group, NABJ group. At one point, things got desperate. I was prepared to go on stage to craft a statement saying that Trump had decided not to go on because of fact-checking, and we couldn't compromise on that.
Right.
But as he was drafting that statement, Trump finally walked on stage. And so we know what happened. Now, there were some audio issues, but the real delay was Trump. Yeah. So the truth is quite different than what we heard. Meantime, on his rally, Donald Trump arrived an hour late to his rally. Odd, but it's the truth. He arrived and delivered a 90-minute attack on crazy Kamala. This is in Pennsylvania. In his first appearance in Pennsylvania since the attempted assassination at that Butler rally, he kicked off the campaign event talking about the shooting and held a moment of silence for the firefighter, Corey Compertori, who was killed. And then as the night went on, the once enthusiastic crowd members started to leave. Trump went off script a lot, hit hard on topics like fracking and the economy. People started to leave the arena. In typical Trump fashion, the GOP presidential candidate once again talked about Hannibal Lecter, deporting illegal immigrants, and took every opportunity to remind the crowd of how terrible the Biden-Harris administration is. So you get from that he showed up late, people are leaving, and he's kind of playing the same old stuff. Maybe people are getting tired of it. Excuse me for 1 second.
Yeah. Well, it feels like the people that love him probably wouldn't mind waiting the hour to hear him spout off all those lies. So that's just the way it is. Yeah.
I remember when we saw Dave Chappelle. He had a DJ there playing stuff. We might have waited 90 minutes at the Mandalay Bay Hotel. And it was jacking the crowd up. But this is, it's unclear that the crowd was getting jacked up in this case. Mm-mm. I've got a big Trump story as promised, and I'll get to it in just a moment. But I first wanted to mention, because we always root that if, when the dust settles, at least he'll be rich, So if you're rooting for Donald Trump, it was a tough day yesterday. His net worth has plunged $900 million since Kamala Harris entered the week.
What happened? I thought the DJT stock was on the rise, no?
Well, what's happening is Truth Social has dropped by $900 million since Kamala Harris entered the race. Trump Media and Technology Group, the share price to which Kim is referring, has actually tumbled about 23% since the announcement that Harris would be in. There was another sharp drop in the stock yesterday. The value of Trump's dominant stake in the conservative social media company stood at just over $4 billion on July 19th. But the final trading day before President Joe Biden exited the race, that was the one that gave him the most money. Since then, it's dropped to about $3.1 billion, so from $4 billion to $3.1 billion. And again, it's an interesting indicator because it is financial people who are essentially betting on the come that this guy is going to be president, and then his stock, his social media company, will be worth that much more. That's what's going on there. So when you see the sell-off come, it tells you that this Trump-Harris race is tight enough that Wall Street traders feel, in terms of betting on the prospects of Trump returning to the White House, it seems like a closer call. And so they dumped the stock. So, I mean, for example, after Biden totally melted down on that debate stage, the stock spiked. But now, with Kamala Harris in the race, it's a different story.
It's an interesting indicator.
Yeah, exactly. And now to a story that, to me, is the real Donald Trump that everybody, for some reason, loses track of. The man is manifestly corrupt. Everything is about money. He took the documents for money to sell them. They're of value. $10 million in cash was withdrawn. And now it looks as though this $10 million in cash came from Egypt, a bank branch in Egypt. And this is 5 days before Trump became president in January of 2017. And the letter comes to this bank branch in Egypt. And the letter is from an organization linked to the Egyptian intelligence service. It asks the bank to kindly withdraw nearly $10 million from the organization's account, all cash. So they were placing bundles of $100 bills into two large bags, according to records from the bank. 4 men arrived, carried away the bags, which U.S. officials later described in sealed court filings as weighing a combined 200 pounds and containing what was then a sizable share of Egypt's reserve of U.S. currency. I'll try to just shorten this. Within months of learning of this withdrawal, prosecutors and FBI agents wanted to do an investigation because since getting the intelligence on this, the Justice Department had been examining whether the money moved from Cairo to Trump, potentially violating federal law that bans U.S. candidates from taking foreign funds, right? Investigators had also sought to learn if money might have factored into Trump's decision in the final days of his run for the White House to inject his campaign with $10 million of his own money. You'll remember Trump said, I'm putting my own money in, but in truth, it might have been back-channel Egyptian money.
Isn't that illegal?
Yes.
Oh.
Now, those
Not
questions...
Not that stopped him before, but you know.
never answered were those questions for the Justice Department. Within months of learning of the withdrawal, prosecutors and FBI agents were blocked by top Justice Department officials from obtaining bank records that they believed might hold critical evidence. The case ground to a halt by the fall of 2019 as Trump's then Attorney General, William Barr, raised doubts about whether there was sufficient evidence to continue the probe of Trump. The behind-the-scenes drama, this is from a Washington Post article, they broke the story, played out during an especially tense time for the Justice Department, with Trump accusing the agency of pursuing a politically biased witch hunt against him in its probe of Russian election interference. His appointees were seeking to rein in investigators that they saw as partisan. And this plunged the agency, the Justice Department, into another legal battle. Barr directed the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in D.C. to personally examine the classified intelligence to evaluate it further. Barr later instructed the FBI director, Christopher Wray, to impose what he called, quote, adult supervision on FBI agents. He called the FBI agents, this is again Barr speaking, quote, hell-bent on pursuing Trump's records. And then in June of 2020, Barr appointed a different person to take things over and declared the probe closed because of, quote, a lack of sufficient evidence to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. So it was still under investigation, but he declared it closed. Every American should be concerned about how this case ended, said one of the people who spoke on this. The Justice Department is supposed to follow the evidence wherever it leads. It does so all the time to determine if a crime occurred or not. The investigation referenced, according to the Trump spokesperson, found no wrongdoing and was closed. The Egyptian government spokesperson declined to answer. As the campaign rolls on for Trump to return to the White House, he's cast himself as a victim of the deep state plots. And this, I'm sure, would fall into that category. But in the years since the Egyptian case was closed, the ambitions to influence senior U.S. government officials have been laid bare by, you'll remember, Senator Bob Menendez. He of the bribery conviction. So Egypt, well acquainted with how to buy public officials in this country. And it would seem that, I'll say this, that this flavor of corruption is totally credible. And now, I'll say this from the Post piece, which is very good. I recommend it. Again, this Washington Post broke this story. It's an exclusive story for them. Over the course of his presidency, Trump shifted U.S. policy in ways that benefited the Egyptian leader, a man once called by Trump, quote, my favorite dictator. Huh. Wow. In 2018, Trump's State Department released $195 million in military aid that the United States had been withholding over human rights abuses in Egypt, a move that had been opposed by his first Secretary of State. That was then followed by the release of $1.2 billion more in such assistance. What I see in this is that Trump can be bought cheap, really cheap. The Post investigation shows that investigators identified a cash withdrawal in Cairo of $10 million, nearly identical to the amount described in the intelligence as to the amount Trump had given his campaign weeks earlier. It's a key theory that investigators pursued based on intelligence and on international money transfer. It's a theory that essentially dictates that Trump was willing to provide funds to his campaign because he expected to be repaid by the Egyptian leadership. That's a piece of it. But to me, it is what Trump's about. Open corruption and covering it up. That's your chunk of Trump.
That's it for this edition.
Well, I really enjoyed it.
But make sure to join us again next time
I think you might want to listen. There's nothing wrong with listening.
for another chunk of Trump.
Meantime,
The Mark Thompson Show.
speaking of money, Kamala Harris has blown Trump's fundraising numbers out of the water. It's quite incredible what's happened. I mean, $310 million?
That's for the month of July, yeah.
More than $200 million of the vice president's July total came in the first week. A lot of them are first-time donors to a political campaign. So that indicates that there's some animated aspect to the electorate on Kamala Harris. On the vice presidential sweepstakes, I'll talk to Michael Shure, top of the next hour, and we'll speak more about this. But the next part of this vetting process is Harris meeting face-to-face with everyone. She hasn't done that yet, but that is the next part of this process. As I say, I'll revisit that with Michael Shure, top of the next hour. I'll mention one other thing in relation to the Kamala Harris presidential campaign, and that is that a significant addition has been added to her campaign staff, and that's David Plouffe, who is is that how he says his name? Yeah. He is a top strategist. He helped both the Obama presidential campaigns, and now he's joining Harris as a senior advisor for strategy, and he is extremely gifted as a campaign strategist. So that is a huge addition to her campaign. And now quickly, good luck getting away from this. J.D. Vance wrote the foreword for a book by the Heritage Foundation dude in which, and this foreword, okay, so he's not just some guy who wrote like a quote that they use on the back of the book. This book rails against IVF, abortion, and dog parks. I mean, you know how they want to just read.
Wait, I thought the Trump campaign was distancing themselves from Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. No?
The president of the Heritage Foundation, the mastermind behind the widely publicized Project 2025, he has a book. And, of course, he's against in vitro fertilization, abortion, contraceptives, childless adults, even dog parks. I mean, this is all the examples of anti-family culture. That's essentially the suggestion.
He needs to keep his eyes on his own paper. I wonder what his life is like. You know, is his life perfect? Is it in chaos? Then don't worry about what other women are doing about having children or people with animals in dog parks. Why don't you just focus on your own business?
Well, I mean, I don't even know animals in dog parks and women who use IVF. Their lives are fine. Their lives are perfect. I don't think, like, when you ask, is his life perfect? What imperfect part of those things is there? IVF is fine, and so are dog parks, and so are childless couples, and so are single people who are childless. That's all fine. There's absolutely no problem with that. It's not like, oh my God, my life went sour, so I'm sitting home alone with my cat. Dude, I'd love to sit alone with my cat many a day. And I love my Courtney, but I'm just saying, I'm sure she'd like to be alone with the cat most of the time. So all I'm saying is it's fine. These are freedoms. These are choices.
Right.
I mean, this crew that cares so much about freedom, this Project 2025 takes it all away. Anyway, your pal J.D. Vance, everyone, he wrote the foreword to this book. And it's going to be very hard for him to baby step backward away from it. But this is another example of J.D. Vance and him getting into the news cycle in a negative way, if the news cycle picks it up. So the last thing I'll say about J.D. Vance is he says the most effed up things. He talked about Simone Biles, who, as you know, is now like, greatest of all time.
She's incredible.
So he made remarks after she withdrew from the Olympics the last time because of she was having mental, I don't want to say, what do you call psychological issues, or what would you call that?
She had the twisties, which is something that happens to gymnasts where you lose your place in the air. So you're flying through the air, you're supposed to not land on your head and break your neck, but you lose your place. And so she was having trouble figuring out when she jumped off the vault where she was in the sky at that time. It was not safe for her to continue.
Of course. Vance, during an appearance on Fox News in 2021, questioned why Biles was receiving acclaim for stepping away. Quote, I think it reflects pretty poorly on our sort of therapeutic society that we try to praise people not for moments of strength, not for moments of heroism, but for their weakest moments. He was running for Senate at that time. Again, that quote doesn't age well, and now he is getting the kind of scrutiny that suggests that, those sorts of quotes are really going to be an issue.
Sometimes it's our weakest moments that turn out to be our strongest.
Yeah,
How hard must that have been to face the criticism of people like that for doing what you had to do for your safety and your team?
Yeah. Is Kim loud enough, Albert? My ears are all stopped up from this illness, so I don't know.
Can you just move your mic a little closer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Were you going to let the whole show go, Albert, before you said
No, I was I was adjusting you to normalize.
Albert, thank you.
Okay,
the whole time.
Very good. Biles and Ledecky, huge showings at the Olympics, everyone. So congratulations to the Americans. And
I believe we're still number 1 in the medal count. Actually, we are number 2. Sorry. Yes, China's now number 1. So
but apart from China, we're number 1. Wouldn't you say that, Albert?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the way I like to say it. All right, so
The Mark Thompson Show.
If you're new here, smash the like button like a boss, if you would. I mean, just smash it. There's a like button. It's a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, and it does help us in the algorithm of YouTube. We're a crowdfunded show. This is a live show, 2 hours every day, and then we break out stuff from this show. We have a big Friday show. Michael Shure comes in at the top of the next hour. We'll talk politics. Michael Snyder comes in. We talk movies because it is a Friday. There's stuff going on. And on Friday, we like to provide you a look at one of the weirdest. I mean, I know weird is now the new. By the way, I'm not crazy for that. I know, but I'll talk about that with Michael. I'm not crazy for that. I mean, everybody's so excited about the use of the word weird when talking about Trump. I mean, I think it's a way weak word, but I don't know, maybe. But anyway, legitimately, Florida is weird. Florida has craziness there. It has lawlessness. It has any number of questions that arise as to what people were thinking. It has medications, to use the polite word for meth, and it also has gators. So we put that all together, and it's a pretty exciting place to be featured. And we do feature it every Friday in a segment we call Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
A Florida woman is busted. That in itself is nothing. She was carrying crack and meth. She was carrying it in a pouch that was labeled bag of drugs, everybody.
Oh.
That is... Yeah.
Make it easy for the cops, why don't you? That's
right.
great.
Really not having law enforcement in mind when Lauren Riley was with her friend who was pulled over in St. Petersburg for failing to wear a seatbelt. It was 11:30 in the morning, according to the Florida Highway Patrol. And she had a smorgasbord of crack, meth, and pills in a zip-up pouch labeled bag of drugs. Here is her
wild
booking
idea,
photo.
just might work.
Here's her booking photo. On the booking photo scale, I'll give her a 7.
I appreciate that she had it taken from above. That's a nice angle for a lady. And because of that, I'll go with a 7. Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
Inside the pouch, as advertised, there were allegedly 3.25 grams of coke, 1.75 grams of crack, 1 gram of crystal meth. And a partridge, what is it? And a partridge
in a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I wanted. So she is in custody. Good luck to her. She's now in a big bag that is labeled in custody. A Florida man arrested after he lassos an alligator, ties it to the fence, then calls 911 to report it. He's accused of tying up an alligator against a fence and later calling 911.
Oh, no.
What?
He said that he found the reptile that way, but he didn't. He faces a felony charge of injuring a gator without authority.
Oh, no. Look at that.
Yeah, it's not cool at all. Robert Collins, 71, was arrested. According to deputies, Collin arrived at the area around 7:30 in the morning to capture a gator nearby. He used a white nylon rope to lasso the gator around its upper jaw and tied the reptile to a handrail. After capturing the gator, Collin called 911 to respond, told deputies he found the gator tied to the handrail, but video footage shows a different story. It shows that Collin used the white nylon rope to create a loop to catch the gator. That is illegal in Florida, as you know, as it should be. And he said that he would walk to feed the turtles as therapy for a heart condition that he has. He also admitted to feeding several gators in the area. He said, you have to understand, there are people there, kids there, dogs there. A lot of people up here are at that area. He says he didn't lasso the gator, but instead the gator bit at the nylon rope and ended up trapped. The gator, sadly, had to be euthanized. Florida man, we didn't
That's
see him,
sad.
did we? Yeah, it's terribly sad. A Florida man leads deputies on a wild chase in a stolen electric Walmart scooter.
Now we're talking.
What?
Now we're cooking with Florida fire.
Exactly.
That's right.
He was going 2 miles an hour in this chase. Polk County deputies had no trouble keeping up with him, but he was dogged in getting away. Troyson Raymond, he's 35. There he is. I'm going to give him a 7 also on the booking photo scale. What do you think?
I give him a 6.
All right.
He does have a look like a, yeah, I did it and I don't care kind of look.
Now, he's got a nice look, I think. But anyway, yeah. He was on a stolen electric scooter riding at a leisurely 2 miles an hour, now facing several charges. After the entire chase, it came to a Dunkin' Donuts, and that's where he stopped. Right there on US 98 in Lakeland, Florida. Deputies pursued, this is from the arrest report, sorry, but deputies pursued Troy as he attempted his getaway on a stolen electric Walmart scooter. Troy hit speeds of about 2 miles an hour on the scooter before deputies caught up to him. Yeah.
Is it really a police pursuit if you're only going 2 miles an hour? I mean,
yeah, I guess it's a pursuit, but you're
right.
right.
The cops are behind you laughing at you at that point. It's not a real chase.
He had stolen items with him, as you know, from Walmart. I mean, as you might imagine. Jewelry, other handheld game items. And so they were after him, and they got him. And now...
This is a poorly planned crime.
Yeah, it again, some of these capers are really done in the moment.
Yeah.
A Florida man threatens to burn the house down and kill the victims if they don't give him a refill of Xanax. Wow, it sounds like he does need the Xanax, to be fair to him.
It sounds like, yeah, that's a must-have. Yeah.
He was threatening his mom and his stepdad, whom he lives with. Leandro Seepersad is his name. He said he would burn the house down and kill them both if he was not provided with more of his mom's prescription Xanax supply. The victims pulled their vehicle in behind the deputy when he arrived after they had left the home because they were terrified of him. They called the cops and they showed up. The mother's side of the story changed. Eventually she said that threats from her son were exaggerated. She's trying to cover for her son.
Sure.
But did they drop? She wanted the charges dropped, right, Albert? The mom?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was arrested. And 2 counts of domestic simple assault. He does have a violent criminal history, including armed robbery with a lethal weapon, possession of firearm by a felon, and felony drug charges. So he is bringing it home with strength. Yeah.
He's just screaming that he really needs the Xanax,
I'm kind of on his side. I think he really does need him. This goes to the villages. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. A villager arrested after leading cops on a chase in a golf cart.
Nice.
David Morley Pope is 55. He was driving a gold golf cart in the wee hours. Those are the best hours, the wee hours. He's got a face of a guy who's going to get into trouble.
Yep.
I'm giving him a 6. What do you think?
This is difficult, but I can picture him in the golden golf cart. I'm going 8.
No, very nice.
Yeah.
Well, he
what do you think?
He got
Albert?
involved. Yeah.
Well, it's high. It's high for me. Maybe like a 8.7. Maybe.
Oh,
he
yeah,
looks like
exactly.
a classic Florida man.
Yeah,
Right.
Francine goes for a 9. Yeah, I agree.
Wow.
I think it's pretty. But maybe I. So he was driving a gold golf cart in the wee hours, and an officer involved in an unrelated traffic incident noted that the golf cart was traveling on a prohibited roadway. He got into a squad car, began to pursue the golf cart, which made an abrupt turn into Purple Martin Lane at the Blue Parrot RV Resort. The Blue Parrot RV Resort.
Where good things happen.
Yes, it's quite a special place, really. The Blue Parrot RV Resort. It's all R and a little bit of V. and a lot of resorts. So he was pursued by the cop. The golf cart finally came to a halt, and Pope presented himself to the officer with a suspended Michigan driver's license. During the pursuit, it appeared Pope had tried to discard something. It was a white glass smoking pipe that was found near the golf cart.
There's a surprise.
A female passenger told the cops that the pipe belonged to Pope, and he had tried to get rid of it. The pipe tested positive for, anybody?
Meth. Crack?
Meth is right.
Meth.
And we don't like to choose a favorite, but we must.
Oh.
Here is your list. I must tell you, this is quite...
I think we might have one more story.
Oh, we do? Sorry.
And it's a tweet exactly from actually Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd. So you could just read that word for word. This is in his words.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Meet 48-year-old David Bell, Grady wrote, of Lakeland, Florida. David had 2 Polk County warrants fleeing to elude. Deputies went looking for him. David must have seen our deputy coming because he ran out of the house and fled on a bicycle. Deputy Thompson was in his patrol car, saw David, so he attempted a traffic stop on him. David tried some nifty moves on his bike to get away. David's moves weren't nifty enough, and he crashed on Tillman Road. David got up and ran, but Deputy Thompson ran faster and caught David. After he was taken into custody, David admitted to Deputy Thompson that he ran because he knew he had warrants. David was taken to the Polk Pokey on his 2 warrants and additionally charged with resisting for attempting to flee. Wow. What about his booking photo? What do you think?
I'm going to go 7.
7 it is.
Yeah.
I must tell you, I'm feeling very lightheaded, like I might pass out here. So I may have to turn the entire show over to Kim here.
Oh, you
very
poor
quickly.
thing.
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to lie down. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
All right, thank you. I'm going to be dropping out.
All right, you go rest up.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Mark has tested positive for COVID yesterday, and trying to power through, gotta love it, but just not working out. But that doesn't derail Friday Fabulous Florida. Oh no, Albert. No, it doesn't at all.
So I just have I have the polls open right now, and you can vote on your favorite. He did tough it out just to make it to the end of Florida. So shout out to Mark. Hopefully he feels better.
So what do we have as far as what we can vote for in the chat?
We have Gator Wrangler, a 2 mile per hour chase, another Villages golf cart chase, and bag of drugs.
All right, well, we have to pick our favorite, so I'll recap it for you. The Friday Fabulous Florida offerings include the Florida woman busted for carrying crack and meth in a pouch labeled bag of drugs, a Florida man arrested after he lassos the alligator, tied it to a fence, and then called 911 to report it, a Florida man allegedly leading deputies on a 2 mile per hour chase in a stolen electric Walmart scooter, a Florida man threatening victims if they don't refill his Xanax prescription, a villager at Florida's The Villages arrested after leading police on a chase in a golden golf cart, and a Lakeland, Florida man who tried to escape on a bicycle, but his bike moves were not quite nifty enough. What do you think, Albert? What's your favorite?
I like the bag of drugs, but I'm going for a special vote for the Villages golf cart chase because I did, in fact, find a website that just tracks anything that goes on in the Villages, and it might change Florida from now on. Yeah,
this is going to be really good. Really good. I'm going to choose the stolen electric Walmart scooter. It just sings to me. It speaks to me. Yeah. I like it.
And in the chat, it seems like it's between the two that we like, the bag of drugs and the 2 mile per hour chase.
Okay. Sounds good. That is Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
So we have Michael Shure on the way in. If you haven't heard Michael Shure, His analysis, a political analysis, is always so interesting, always thinks of things that I haven't considered before. He's coming up just after the top of the hour. We'll also talk to Michael Snyder today, who brings us all things pop culture, movie reviews, talk a little sports as well. But first, how about we do a little bit of news, Albert?
Yes, let's get to some of the news. I have to play all the sounds since Mark isn't here. Let me find all of our sounds first.
Here it is. It's coming.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, not that one. Not that one.
No, it's not over yet. Here it is. Kamala Harris has secured enough delegate votes to become the Democratic nominee for president. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show. This report sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. The vice president crossed the threshold of delegate votes during a virtual roll call today. Harris will officially accept the nomination next week. The Democratic National Committee's vote started Thursday morning, and Harris ran for the nomination unopposed. Stocks have gone way down on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has been down more than 900 points already in today's session. NASDAQ has been down over 500 points. The S&P 500 is down over 2% as well. The company NVIDIA is facing an antitrust investigation. The U.S. Department of Justice launching this investigation after competitors complained that the AI chip leader is abusing its market dominance. Former President Trump hesitant about debating Vice President Kamala Harris. In an interview with Fox Business, Trump said he wants to debate his likely Democratic opponent, but he said he's leading in the polls and the voters already know where he and Harris stand on the issues. The Trump campaign announced last week Democrats need to formalize their nominee before Trump would debate. Meanwhile, Harris is challenging Trump to show for a September debate hosted by ABC, finalized when President Biden was still in the race. San Francisco Mayor London Breed is offering the homeless a ticket out of town. The mayor yesterday moving forward with her Journey Home executive directive. The directive orders all city departments and staff to offer relocation services in the forms of bus tickets out of town to homeless people before offering them shelter in the city. Part of the reason for the directive comes from new numbers that show there's been an increase in the number of homeless people in San Francisco coming into the city from elsewhere. Mayor Breed says San Francisco shelters are quickly reaching capacity. Authorities say a series of brush fires in the Santa Cruz Mountains may be the work of an arsonist. 4 small fires were reported in the area near the Lexington Reservoir between July 15th and July 26th. All 4 were within a few miles of one another, and investigators say all 4 are suspicious. There will be an increase in deputy patrols in the area for the time being to try to keep that area safe. Last thing we need is a fire in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Former CNN host Don Lemon is suing Elon Musk for canceling his show on X the day after he recorded an interview with the billionaire. According to the suit filed in San Francisco, Lemon had a contract with X that would have paid him $1.5 million a year plus a share of the ad revenue. Musk reportedly did not like that interview and fired Lemon instead, and now we have the lawsuit. Intel is preparing to cut 15% of its workforce, the tech company announcing it would soon begin mass layoffs as part of a $10 billion plan to reduce overall costs. In this year's second quarter, Intel reported revenue of $12.8 billion, but that's down 1% from 2023. Sayonara to Chevron, the company is relocating its headquarters from San Ramon in the East Bay to Houston, Texas. The oil giant has some 7,000 employees already working in Texas. About 2,000 workers will stay in California to continue working for Chevron, but it looks like the official headquarters of this company will change. So that's it. More than 100 million people across the United States are under heat warnings and advisories today, Forecasters say a high-pressure system stretching across parts of the U.S. will cause temperatures to rise above 100 degrees. That's from central California to the mid-Atlantic. The heat index, factoring in humidity, could send temperatures soaring up to 115 degrees in parts of the central United States. Back to the money. Talked a little bit about the money earlier and hope to bring up the issue with Michael Shure in just a moment. But former President Trump's campaign pulled in almost $139 million in July and has $327 million on hand. His Democratic rival for the White House, Vice President Kamala Harris, raised $310 million in July, and that's the biggest grassroots fundraising effort in presidential campaign history. So in the month of July, Harris with $310 million and Trump with about $139 million. With the Kamala Harris money, 2/3 of that came from first-time donors. So, very interesting. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is condemning President Biden's proposed reforms to the Supreme Court. In an interview with Punchbowl News, McConnell compared Biden's efforts to the January of 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, arguing President Biden is trying to break the system. The reforms the president has backed include 18-year term limits alongside a binding code of conduct. A binding code of conduct. I don't know if that's breaking the system, but, okay, whatever you say. The largest active wildfire in the United States has now burned more than 394,000 acres in Northern California. As of last night, the fire was 22% contained, and evacuation orders were still in effect across 3 counties. 530 structures have been destroyed by the park fire, another 47 damaged. So far, no deaths or injuries reported, so that's the good thing. The International Olympic Committee is calling allegations made against an Algerian women's boxer a witch hunt. There have been many claims from the likes of former President Trump and the internet personality Logan Paul that suggested Iman Khalif is a biological man being allowed to compete as a woman at the Paris Olympics. Addressing reporters Friday, the IOC chief spokesperson Mark Adams said Khalif was actually born female, was registered female, lived her life as a female, and had a female passport. So, maybe the stories aren't so true after all. President Biden reportedly considering U.S. defenses for Israel in case of an attack by Iran. CNN says the president spoke on the phone yesterday with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and said the U.S. would support Israel's defense against threats with a new defensive military deployment. Iran says it will attack Israel in response to the recent assassination of a Hamas leader in Tehran. So, this report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It is a place to get a little bit of heaven in your coffee cup. Find a huge selection of coffees and amazing teas. Really is quite the treat. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Mark is loving the cold brew. I just ordered yesterday some more vanilla iced teas, so really excited to get it in the mail. You can use your exclusive 10% Mark Thompson Show discount just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener. You put in Mark T all together, Mark T at checkout, and get your 10% off, and you can enjoy the good stuff. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod. Use Mark Thompson.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Now what you call me?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, liar, your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No, no, no.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret talent?
Doesn't anybody but a weed?
100% effective, how about that?
Say what?
And this is their new host.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Thompson, because moments ago, Mark had to go lay down. This show has been hurt by COVID, I'll tell you what. The good thing, though, Albert, is we seem to be staggering our COVID diagnoses. So first I had it, now Mark has it, and he's only in day 2. So I hope he lays down, feels a little bit better. You know, I mean, it's the way it goes. Sometimes you don't get to finish out the show, but the show must go on, indeed.
And we're not tied to any restrictions for like we were at the radio station. We could just, this is our show. We could do whatever we want. We could end early, have it go forever. And yeah, we could just keep on moving along. Michael Shure is in the green room. He has a hard out at 12:22. Just want to remind you.
All right. Well, let's get him right on the show then. Michael Shure knows more about politics than I've ever forgotten. I said it wrong, but let's bring him in. He's a political analyst. He's a really smart individual, and I always love the conversation. Michael Shure, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Thank you for being here.
I don't know if COVID, but can I just go lie down?
No, you cannot lie down. No. At least 20 minutes we're going to need you, and then maybe we'll give you a nap. We'll give you a little nap, yeah. Did you hear this? And I have sound to play for you. Hopefully Albert can help me out with this. If we could start it at 25. But this whole being called weird thing that the Democrats are doing to Republicans seems to be affecting Trump a lot. And he's getting a little upset about it. And he was on a podcast yesterday, and they bring up this, you know, the whole being called weird, and he gets a little bit squirrely about it all. Do we have the sound, Albert?
I'm locked out from that article. So
okay.
No sound.
So he starts talking about how, you know, I'm not weird. They're weird. I'm not weird. J.D. Vance isn't weird. They're weird. Mark seems to think that there's a lot of other more prudent arguments to be made as to, you know, why the Republicans shouldn't be voted back in, why Trump shouldn't be voted back in, and that this weird thing is a weird argument in and of itself. But I think if it's getting under his skin and it's working, I kind of like it. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's what happens with these things is, you know, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, said it, and, you know, people glommed onto it, and then it started getting written about and talked about, and is it a pejorative or is it not? And is it, you know, is it accurate or is it not? And so I think, I know what Mark's saying, but I don't think it really matters because people aren't talking about it. And if Trump is talking about it, then maybe it accidentally hit home in a way that people think it's okay for it to hit home. It's not going to be, I don't think it's something that Democrats are dwelling on. Today, Josh Shapiro used the word, and just because the word's been so prevalent, my ears perked up because I thought, oh, they're going with weird again. But I think it's just because we say the word weird once in a while, and that's how Shapiro used it today.
Yeah, it's an interesting attack. Today, though, we find out the July totals for the fundraising, and we find out that Kamala Harris has raised $310 million in July, compared to, I think it's $138.7 million for Trump in July.
Yeah.
Most of the money's from Harris's campaign contributions coming from first-time donors. The biggest grassroots fundraising effort in presidential campaign history is what they're calling it. What's the significance?
Well, I mean, the significance is basically that it is the exclamation point on the enthusiasm gap being closed, as we've predicted here on the Mark Thompson show now for months, at least on Fridays at noon, is that as soon as we had a new candidate that wasn't President Biden, that was the difference. The difference was the enthusiasm gap. Yeah, most Democrats would have voted for the president, but there wouldn't have been that enthusiasm. There wouldn't have been the constituencies that sort of get excited around a candidate that you're already seeing with Vice President Harris when she goes and fills halls and she fills arenas and people are coming out, because now you have a 45,000 person call-in Zoom with the vice president with black women, and it creates energy. Would most of those black women have voted for President Biden? Probably, but we don't know. Now there is something that is actually, there's an anchor to what they want to do, and it's happening everywhere. And of course, it happens with the money as well.
You mentioned black voters, and I want to bring it up because I want to get your thoughts on what happened with the National Association of Black Journalists and Trump's kind of attacking, I'll use the word weird meltdown that he had on stage there. How damaging is that for his campaign?
There's not one Trump voter who he lost by doing that. But his job is not just to hang on to Trump voters. His job is to sort of win over independents or win over disenchanted Democrats who maybe people who voted for Biden aren't sure about Harris. Maybe people who voted for Trump, then Biden, and could go back even though there was something they didn't like about Trump. His job is to woo those people. He's not doing a good job of wooing right now, and that was bizarre. And I think the takeaway from that is not just like his disconnect and how ridiculous it was for him to have accepted that invitation in a way, but the way he says things like black jobs, or the way he qualified Vice President Harris as, she was Indian until she was black. I mean, she was born as a black woman, and if he saw her, sitting in a restaurant and he had to describe her to someone else, he would say the black woman who was sitting at the table next to me. So that was just so disconnected from the way we talk about race in this country now, and that's what I mean. I mean, his crowd might talk about it that way. He needs to build his crowd, and that's not helping.
No, that was not helpful at all. But meanwhile, on the Harris team front, she's got to pick a running mate, and she's supposed to do it by Monday, Tuesday at the very latest, because Tuesday she and this running mate are off on a tour of swing states. So she's, I guess, vetting 6 people. What's it look like as far as what you're seeing?
At the very beginning, the sources I had said that they were looking pretty closely at Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. We haven't heard about him. Roy Cooper was another one that I heard talk of, but he pulled himself out of the running in kind of Biden-esque way to stay in North Carolina because the lieutenant governor there, who is a Republican, is also the Republican candidate there. And so I think that he wanted to make sure that person, because of some arcane laws they have in North Carolina, didn't do executive orders while he was out campaigning for the vice presidency. So that helped the campaign, the Harris campaign, because that was one less person to look at. And then there's Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. And, people are talking about him now with a seriousness that I hadn't heard before. I don't read into the fact that it's being kicked off in Philadelphia. I think that when you're running as sort of a pro-democracy campaign, and fighting against the terrors to democracy, starting in Philadelphia would be where anyone would start. If you were running someone from Alaska and Hawaii, you might want to start in Philadelphia, Independence Hall, the cradle of our republic. So I think that doesn't move it for me. But the fact that Josh Shapiro brings energy, I'm not a big I don't care much about who the vice presidential running mate is, as long as they don't hurt and as long as you're not mired in negatives throughout. Even J.D. Vance, Donald Trump is not going to win or lose because of J.D. Vance, and I don't think Harris will win or lose unless something happens with as far what we know changes, I guess, with our thoughts right now. Something were to change there, then maybe it affects it. Shapiro, fine. Mark Kelly, fine. The senator from Arizona.
Well, she's, from what I understand, has to pick someone from a swing state, right? I mean, I guess
yes,
she doesn't have to, but that's
she doesn't have to, yeah. That's because people overthink the vice presidency, right? I think Harris wins Pennsylvania without Shapiro, and I think that she may win Arizona, but it won't be because of Mark Kelly. That's just me. Other people would argue against that, but I don't think people vote for the vice president.
How important is it, though, to make a wise choice as far as what that running mate would bring to the team, as far as where they're from, or how many electoral votes are in that state? How strategic does she have to be about the decision?
I mean, I think the intangibles are more important. Al Gore, when he was picked by Bill Clinton, was from Tennessee, and and he was a little like Bill Clinton. That's why he picked him, to sort of have this sort of it was Reagan and Bush. It was two older guys before that, and then it was Bush and Quayle, and Bush was still a holdover from the old Republicans. Bill Clinton and Al Gore were this new, young, Southern energy, but Democrats, and it was an intangible. It wasn't about winning Tennessee, and it wasn't about any other demographic. It was just about what the ticket portrays. So I think if Harris were to pick, let's say, Josh Shapiro. Yes, would it help in Pennsylvania? Sure, it wouldn't hurt. Certainly, he's a governor who was elected overwhelmingly, who has a very big favorability number. But at the same time, I think what he would bring is this kind of sharpness, this energy that they want to see from our candidates now, that Democrats want to say, this is who we want to see, because we are talking about running against the oldest person who's ever run for president before. So that's the contrast you do. So I don't think the strategy of where they're from, who their electoral votes are. I think you want to, A, not make a mistake, and B, have somebody who gives you an intangible that your campaign would profit from.
Speaking of not making a mistake, Trump, again, is saying that there's not a real reason for him to debate Kamala Harris. That while he wants to debate his rival, his comments were, people know where I stand on the issues, and they know where Kamala Harris stands on the issues. And so there's really not a reason to do this. Meanwhile, you've got Kamala Harris at her rallies saying, he seems to be scared of me and has a lot to say about me, and why doesn't he come and say it to my face, type of thing. Yeah. Does it look bad for Trump not to debate Kamala Harris? Does he have to do it?
He doesn't have to do it. There were times when we didn't have debates in this country. From 1960 to 1976, there weren't presidential debates, and we still elected regularly elected presidents in that time period. I think that again, this goes back to when we were talking about the NABJ stuff with Trump, is that I think that he's somebody who needs to win more voters in more places. And by running from your opponent, that doesn't help. So strategically, I think that you are foolish not to go to a debate when your opponent says, I'll debate you anytime, anywhere, because it means that you're hiding something, or you're afraid of this person. Donald Trump probably tired of prosecutors, which is what Kamala Harris spent a good portion of her life being. So I just think that that it doesn't help.
Have you seen these new ads that are, I'm not sure who's behind them, but they're former Trump voters, Trumpers, that have now turned against him. And there's a series of ads they're making calling him a criminal. I wonder if those are going to be effective, or if you're still one of these people that if you're a Trumper, you're just going to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, these ads are not to try and get the diehards away from Donald Trump. They're not going anywhere, folks. They're staying with him. He's got a solid base. There are people that have glommed onto him from the very beginning and aren't letting go. It's getting the casual Trump voter. It's getting the, I don't know if I can vote for the Democrats again voter. It's the, man, the price of bread is really high. I don't like Donald Trump, but I don't want to pay this much for a loaf of bread and a carton of eggs. It's that voter who these ads are geared towards. So I guess I think when you have regular people talking about the negative stuff and people who had voted for Trump, it creates a safety net, basically, for these people to come and say, okay, yeah, the eggs and the bread are high, but this guy is a criminal. I just can't do that, right? So I think it's a thin swath of voters that it goes to, but that's the way we ad now. We advertise now. It's these targeted ads that are mostly streaming that people see, and it changes. It makes it a safe thing for people to not vote for Donald Trump.
I don't know when the last time you were at a Trump event, because I know that you are sent there quite often in your other job.
My last one was I was at the convention, which was as Trump an event as there is, I guess.
Okay. So I wonder if between then and now, where we have Kamala Harris, who today apparently just locked up the nomination, I wonder if we have enough, if things have changed at Trump rallies where people are feeling the lack of momentum and the shift in a campaign.
Yeah, I think that, I've spoken to Republicans since then. I haven't spoken to the diehards, the Trump rally goers, but I've spoken to Republicans who say, yes, they feel the sea change. And I've spoken to Democrats who feel it too, people who are honest with me from the beginning about President Biden's chances, some who were more optimistic than others. But it's impossible not to feel this change, and it's impossible not to feel it in states that matter. And I know for a fact that they're trying to change their map on the Republican side, how they're campaigning, the emphasis on Georgia, an emphasis on states that may not have been where they were going to do a lot of spending, aside from Georgia. But they have to win some of the states that went away from them last time with more desperation, because I think they look at Michigan as not as fertile as they had hoped it would be, and perhaps even Pennsylvania. So, and North Carolina has even polled differently since Harris was the de facto nominee. So there's definitely a change in the way they're approaching this race. And I think they weren't happy with what the president did the other day at the NABJ. I think I know it has mattered to Republicans who I've spoken to.
Lastly, I'll ask you this question that Mark wanted to ask you earlier. He had mentioned that he was going to bring it up with you. And it is the J.D. Vance connection to the Project 2025 leader. Apparently, he wrote the foreword in this man's book. Meanwhile, the Trump administration, or the Trump campaign, I should say, has been trying to distance itself from Project 2025. And here's J.D. Vance, who's written the foreword in the book. And there's some pretty outrageous stuff in the book. So I wonder, is this just another instance where J.D. Vance becomes an anchor around the campaign, the Trump campaign?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yes and no. Again, I'm gonna hold fast to the fact that J.D. Vance is gonna have nothing to do with who wins the presidency this year. Right. And so, and Trump has distanced himself from Project 2025. Paul Dance, who was the executive director of Project 2025, was with the Heritage Foundation, stepped away from that. I don't think people are not walking around their neighborhoods and rural and urban parts of this country talking about Project 2025. It's happening at a level that's much higher than the voters that are going to, be embroiled in this campaign are. And so, yeah, maybe Democrats are put off by it, but they also see something that they want to jump on. When the candidate has said that he doesn't even know what it is, we know that's not true. But there really is. There's never been an official embrace from Trump of 2025, of Project 2025, even though it was written up by former Trumpers and Trump administration people, and likely many of them would be in a future Trump administration. It's hard to articulate what it is.
Yeah. Michael Shure, I know you have to go, so thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate the conversation always. Have a great rest of your weekend.
All right, you too, guys.
Bye-bye. Michael Shure, everybody. Always love having him on the show. Mark is laying down.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Taking a little bit of a rest, and as he recovers from COVID, I'm telling you, this thing can knock you down, so let's hope he feels better. We have Michael Snyder coming up.
I hope he feels better, but I'm also not liking the projection of how this show has gone with the COVID.
That means you're next. Yeah, get ready, Albert. Here it comes. You're the good thing about you, Albert, is you're the youngest member of the team, so it's the likelihood that you'll bounce back really quickly. I have faith.
Well, knock on wood. I have a trip coming up, so hopefully I'm good.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Barcelona. I think I'm going to try to call in one of those days from Barcelona.
Oh, how fun is that?
Maybe
All
record
right.
some
I
videos.
look
I know I
forward to
recorded some
that.
videos for Taiwan when I went this
Yeah.
year. I had some pictures from London as well. So maybe I'll do something from Barcelona.
I love it. Well, right now, let's do a little bit of news as we prepare for Michael Snyder, the culture blaster, to come in and talk movies and pop culture. Some news stories here on the way. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. And as mentioned, Kamala Harris now has enough delegate votes to become the Democratic presidential nominee. The vice president crossed the threshold of delegate votes during a virtual roll call today, and Harris will officially accept the nomination next week. The Democratic National Committee's vote started Thursday morning. Harris ran for that nomination unopposed. More than 397,000 acres have burned in Northern California as the Park Fire, the largest active wildfire in the U.S., continues to rage. So far, it's now 24% contained. More than 530 structures destroyed by that fire. Another 6,700 are threatened. So far, no deaths or injuries from the Park Fire. The national park admission will be free all day on Sunday. Look at that. The U.S. Department of the Interior celebrating 4 years since the Great American Outdoors Act was signed into law. That provided $900 million annually in oil and gas revenue for the Land and Water Conservation Fund and more than $9 billion over 5 years for national park maintenance. So there you go. It is a virtual day in New York court for singer Justin Timberlake. The 43-year-old pop star pleaded not guilty to DUI charges while his virtual appearance this morning and the judge also suspended his New York State driver's license. Timberlake is accused of swerving multiple times and blowing through a red light in Sag Harbor in June. Meantime, his lawyer's been trying to get the case dismissed, claiming Timberlake was not drunk. We'll see how this all plays out. More babies are being born with birth defects linked to fentanyl. At least 30 newborns have been diagnosed with what's being called fetal fentanyl syndrome, suffering health problems after their mothers used illicit fentanyl while pregnant. The condition first identified by geneticists in Delaware last year. Lawmakers celebrating the release of the Americans jailed in Russia, but they're raising concerns about prisoner swaps. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Michael McCall saying yesterday he's thrilled that Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan have been released, but he's worried the exchange for Russian prisoners could encourage future hostage-taking. Meanwhile, the release and coming back to the United States. I don't know if you saw the video, but Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan coming off the plane and being hugged by President Biden and Kamala Harris and then their family members happened last night, and it's a pretty emotional video. Donald Trump is claiming a female boxer competing in the Olympics is actually a biological male. How he knows this, I don't know, but Trump was on the Clay and Buck show yesterday complaining about this female boxer who competed Thursday and swiftly defeated her opponent. Trump said, "We don't want to have men play in women's sports." Meanwhile, the Olympic Committee is saying that person was not male. WNBA star Brittany Griner says she's overwhelmed with joy and relief for the 4 Americans just released in that prisoner swap with Russia. Griner was held herself prisoner in Russia for 10 months in 2022. Yesterday, she and her wife celebrated the prisoner swap on Instagram. Katie Ledecky is now the most decorated female swimmer in Olympic history. Ledecky adding a 13th medal to her collection after the U.S. 4x200-meter freestyle relay team took silver Thursday. Wednesday, she won her 8th gold medal after taking first in the 1,500-meter freestyle and posted a new Olympic record when doing so as well. Are you watching the Olympics, Albert? I seem to be
not as much as I should
no?
be. I've been really busy with. I have that other job that I work.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's just taking up all my time. But I've been enjoying. I've been really liking the volleyball. I watch a lot of the volleyball and the basketball.
I have had COVID, so I've been kind of in quarantine, and it's my good fortune that the Olympics happen to be on at the same time, so I've managed to see a lot of it, and it's really exciting. Here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom is declining a pay raise. Salaries for elected officials are set to increase 3.5% in December. Governor Newsom submitted a letter ahead of that outlining his desire to forego the bump in pay. He says it would be wrong to take more money while the state deals with fiscal challenges. The governor currently makes a little more than $234,000 a year. He says he doesn't need more money, so... Fast food workers in California demanding another raise in the minimum wage. 4 months ago, the state bumped up the hourly rate from $16 an hour to $20. Now, the California Fast Food Workers Union says that's not enough. It's seeking a raise to $20.70. The pay increase among a list of demands sent to the state's Fast Food Council. The union is also calling for back pay, increased job stability, consistent schedules, and an investigation to what it calls pervasive abuses in the fast food industry. They've got a meeting scheduled on all that for later this month. The Los Angeles City Council may soon formally oppose a major grocery store merger. 5 council members plan to introduce a resolution today that would make the city's position clear on the proposed merger between Kroger and Albertsons. The two companies combined would impact nearly 600 stores across the country, more than 60 of them in California. The $25 billion merger is currently being challenged by the Federal Trade Commission, which says it would lead to less choice and higher prices for consumers. And speaking of the Olympics, Albert, Tom Cruise is expected to participate in the closing ceremony of the Paris Olympics. According to Deadline, the action film star will be involved in the traditional handoff of the Olympic torch from Paris to Los Angeles. Not known what Cruise's exact role will be, but as part of the ceremony, the Paris mayor, Anne Hidalgo, will pass the Olympic flag to Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Los Angeles is set to host the Summer Games in 2028.
Oh, okay, so there's a little tie-in there. Because I felt like the opening ceremony was great with all the names and stuff and all these high-profile celebrities and athletes, but I always thought it was pretty random that there wasn't more of an emphasis on the French people. I'm like,
sure,
Rafael Nadal and Serena Williams and all of them are walking the torch. I'm like, where's the French people, you know?
Well, the closing ceremony with the pass-off, I'm sure it'll be star-studded, a Hollywood thing, so it would make sense that Tom Cruise is in
what
for it.
What sport do you think Tom Cruise would be good at, Kim?
What sport?
Any of the Olympic sports, yeah.
When I think of Tom Cruise, I think of him being, lowered on ropes down rocky face cliffs. He's a really good motorcyclist. He's done most of his own stunts. I'm going to say, is there some type of obstacle course? Some type of, I don't know.
I mean, there's one with the horse, and usually those are smaller stature. He's not the tallest of guys, Kim. I'm thinking one of those equestrian type or
maybe
horse related. I don't know.
He's pretty athletic. I tend to think whatever you throw at him, he'd be all right. I don't know. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. They are celebrating their grape stomps, and they've got so many good events coming up. Check out the website, tenutawinery.com, and take a look at the events there. You go out to the winery, you buy some wine, you stomp some grapes, you have a really, really good time, and you get 10% off of all of your purchases across the board. You can, say, smash it with your iron rod and get a 10% discount just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener. How do you get the discount, you ask? You call Rich at 925-699-4576, or you can email Rich at tenutavineyard.com, rich at tenutavineyard.com, and get your 10% off. But go to tenutawinery.com as well. Check out the event schedule and consider going out there and having fun. You can take the family, do a work event out there where you stomp the grapes and have a bonding moment. really funny. They've got 29 wine choices, 17 reds, 12 whites, including, of course, the Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio, and my personal favorite, the Why Are You Yelling Red blend. This is the 10th year of Tenuta's Tap Room as well. So not only can you get wine out at the winery, but you can have a nice beer as well. Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson? Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore, our thanks to them for sponsoring the Friday show. I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Feels great, baby.
Let me kick down the door and talk to my cheap sons and daughters.
No context will suffice to explain the hurt and anguish caused by my words. I apologize to all who have been hurt.
I stand corrected. I misspoke. My words upset so many people.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
God bless America. The end.
There's never been anything like this.
Do I hit it long? Is Trump strong? Huh?
Who is having that conversation?
He's fantastic.
That's not fake. That's real.
The science is ridiculous.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
There is no defense for my conduct. It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Don't ever use that word.
You get nothing.
What's a guilty pleasure to you about?
Seriously, what the
COVID has hit him hard, so he had to go lay down. So we hope he's feeling better. Some people to thank, including Kelly Malloy. It's Friday and Mark is on. Kind of. He was here for part of it anyway. $20 from Kelly Malloy. Huge, huge thank you. The show is crowdfunded, and we can't do this without you. So really appreciate the contributions. Lucy McAllister, my sister from another mister, with a $20 super sticker. Lucy, I know you're Mark's favorite McAllister, so really appreciate your contribution to the show. Thank you so much. Sandra throwing down a $10 super sticker. I love your picture, Sandra, and thank you for the contribution as well. The Uprights, feel better, Mark. Sincerely, The Uprights with a $10 super sticker. Now I have to look up what the Uprights are.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And Blue Spark with a $10 super sticker as well. So appreciate your contribution to the show. You guys always know exactly how to support this show. Kelly with another $5, sent in 20 already, sending in 5 because it's Friday. Woohoo! We'll take that 5 and thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Also, No Contendo with the $5 super sticker. He tells POC that we were late, but he's regularly plus 3 hours late to his own rallies. Doesn't pay the cities he visits regarding police overtime and security lapse, regarding Trump and being late to the National Association of Black Journalists event. Yeah, No Contendo. We appreciate the $5 super sticker and thank you very much for the contribution there and the chat as well. We'll bring this up just because, you know, Mark has taken ill. It's a good time for a comment just like this. Bill writes, if you give Kim responsibility to police the chat, you should let her issue yellow cards, and you should be able to review them. I think you should issue the red cards after review with your team. 100%, Bill. Thank you for the support on that. Much appreciated. Alan says, Kim like Trump? No way. Mark deserves a yellow card for that. I agree, but since he's sick, we'll give him a pass. You know, I think he He gets a little rest and a little relaxation there. Regarding, though, trolls, Heather writes, there's a difference between sparking discussion and outright trolling. Regarding Chris, he says he can be quite derogatory and rarely actually contributes to the conversation. You know, and it isn't necessarily the contributing to the conversation, although that's what we want, a give and take and trading of ideas, a fun place to be. But it's the saying things that aren't true and stirring it up for just to stir up sake. That's what gets me. You know, the lying to just piss people off. Not happy about that. All right, you know what does make me happy, though, is that it is Friday, and it's time to look at what's coming up on streaming, in the movies, and we have the Culture Blaster. It's Michael Snyder. We welcome Michael Snyder to the show. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Welcome, Michael Snyder, everybody. Yay!
Hey, hi, Kim. Bonne santé. That would be good health to you non-French speakers. I guess the Paris Olympics have me in a French state of mind, even with the COVID lurking. Yes, the spike in Rona cases. I am so concerned that Mark had to use the fainting couch today.
Yes.
But I'm happy that you're taking the wheel, Kim. You know, I'll tell you what, I'm concerned enough that I wore a mask at last night's theater screenings.
Yeah.
You know, it's virulent in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and so am I guess. Before we get to...
Not that it ever left, but it's definitely, you know, resurging. And so wearing a mask at a screening where there's a lot of people seems like a really smart idea right now.
Well, I'm nothing if not really smart. No, I do not want to have to use the fainting couch, Kim. No. I can't, you know. How Victorian am I? Well, I'm not that Victorian.
No.
Speaking of my fair cities, San Francisco and Los Angeles, I do want to point out a big event happening tonight in San Francisco at the Haight Street Arts Center. It is a punk rock photo exhibit with work by a lot of terrific photographers I know, not the least amongst them my old pal Chester Simpson. The show is called San Francisco Punk, 1970s, 1980s. And it will be opening this evening with an event from 6 to 9 p.m., again at the Haight Street Arts Center, 215 Haight Street. And if I wasn't in Los Angeles dodging viruses, I would be at that soiree tonight.
You're the coolest of cool. You attend the funky events. You know, there's nothing you won't go to.
Well, now, nothing I won't go to without my trusty mask.
That's right.
Anyway, speaking of danger, let's get to today's movie selections, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. Trap is a new movie about a serial killer from the prince of the plot twist, M. Night Shyamalan, screenwriter, director of, you know, The Sixth Sense, Signs, Unbreakable, Split, Knock at the Cabin. I'm mentioning the good ones. There are some that are not quite so good. Some are good. Some are gratuitously weird or self-indulgent. For the record, Trap is actually coming out mere weeks after the release of his daughter Ishana Shyamalan's debut directorial effort, The Watchers, which he co-produced and which was, okay. I mean, the apple hasn't fallen that far from the tree. But meanwhile, Trap itself is a full-on bring your daughter to work day project, and I will explain. As Trap begins, we join loving father Cooper, played by the good-looking, slightly rugged, former young Hollywood hunk Josh Hartnett, and he's bringing his tween daughter, played by Ariel Donahue, to a big concert by Lady Raven, a fictional stand-in for Lady Gaga, played by, wait for it, Salika Shyamalan, who is also M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, and sings and plays her own quote-unquote original music throughout the hefty concert sequence here. I mean, is this guy running a Nepo nursery or what? I mean, anyway, back to the plot. We quickly learn that the concert is, in fact, an elaborate trap to catch a serial killer known as the Butcher. The police, led by an FBI profiler, played by, oh my God, veteran British actress Hayley Mills, who got her start in a movie called The Parent Trap. Wow. And the cops know the butcher is attending the show, so they've surrounded the arena and are doing spot checks throughout to catch the guy. From the trailers and early in the movie itself, we also find out that Cooper is, in fact, the butcher. So it's not a big spoiler. It doesn't matter because it's what happens after we learn this that makes the movie roll. The fun is seeing how he deals with the trap he's in while balancing his duties as a good daddy. So Hartnett's performance is the best thing in the movie, alternately genial and chilling, getting to the heart of the character's broken psyche. He's already done some really memorable, fairly recent work in the movie Oppenheimer and the TV shows The Bear and Penny Dreadful. And now he's the engine that powers Trap, which is engaging and tense until a third act that goes surprisingly conventional for a serial killer movie, despite being a Shyamalan joint. And there is an odd, unexpected, and extremely unlikely hero turn that made me shrug. There are twists that seem telegraphed, but are never the big impact stuff we've come to expect from the director's most memorable work. Nepotism aside, it's almost confounding to learn that Salika is a much better singer and actress than you'd expect. In fact, the end credits revealed that she actually has a recording contract with Columbia, which may be in the service of a Trap soundtrack album, but a deal is a deal. And if Trap isn't close to Shyamalan's best, it's not bad. I think it's a bargain matinee. Or a better bet for a streaming diversion when available. It is currently in theaters. Conditional, not terrible.
We had Alan in the chat saying Shyamalan movies always seem to disappoint him in some way.
That's fair. The ones I mentioned earlier worked for me for the most part. It's just that, he goes to the well of surprise. Is there a well of surprise so often?
Apparently somewhere.
and sometimes he pulls up the bucket and it's empty. So I don't know. This was okay. And again, the third act seems so much more conventional than what we've come to expect from him. So if you just go in there wanting to be amused or diverted for an hour and a half, while you eat your popcorn, Trap works on that level. Right. Okay, in 1955, and this is something you may know about as a mom, a picture book written and illustrated by Crockett Johnson was published. It was entitled Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Love this book so much. It's one of our favorites.
In this book, a 4-year-old boy named Harold has a magic purple crayon that can bring to life anything the child draws. Simple and sweet. And it became a beloved classic of children's literature that inspired, I've seen this, a charming animated short in the late 1950s, it's vintage, and a 2002 cartoon series. So it took a while, but they finally got around to making the first live-action version of Harold and the Purple Crayon, this one starring Zachary Levi as a grown-up, but still somehow infantile Harold. I don't know how else to put it. I suppose they're going for comedy, but
Hey, you know what? Once you figure out what the purple crayon can do, you never want to let go of it.
Right, exactly. And a live action version of a quote unquote adult, here I have air quotes again, Harold, as an adult. The idea is the picture book Harold grows up and draws himself out of the book and into the real world, where the filmmakers hope that hilarity and the warm fuzzies will ensue. Although it has a few laughs and does feature a usually reliable supporting cast, including Zooey Deschanel and one of Mark's favorites, Lil Rel Howery, it is mostly dull, charmless, and bloated, trying to force laughs with slapstick sequences that are unfunny despite the effort. So these good actors are wasted. Maybe I needed to be between 8 and 11 years old to appreciate this. Spoiler alert, I am not, but I can still get into that mindset. And trust me, if a kid's movie is good, I know it. The source material subtext about the wonders of imagination and creativity are still here and there, but the bulk of it is so mediocre that the message is undermined. One of the issues here is that the kid, Harold, grows up in the movie. So you lose that kind of sweetness element. And in a very obvious bit of casting, it's Zachary Levi. He plays Harold as a grown-up kid, just like his portrayal of the adult DC superhero Shazam, who is actually a magically transformed adolescent boy. The casting director didn't have to go very far to find his grown-up Harold, in other words. Alfred Molina narrates. Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords is on board, and still no dice.
Those are some big names in that movie.
I know. Harold should have used the purple crayon to write a better script. How about that?
Oh, no.
So much for imagination and creativity, which are in short supply here, at least for grown-ups. I think if you're 8 years old, you'll probably have a ball. I don't know. Again, this is something that it seems like it's designed for home streaming, home television, Harold and the Purple Crayon in theaters. But, if you're interested, go. But you also might want to wait.
Is it supposed to be a kid's movie?
Yeah, it's a family film. Okay, it's meant for the whole family, but I think the adults are going to be like fidgeting. What can I say? And now for a movie I can wholeheartedly recommend, and certainly one of the better movies I've seen in a while. Kneecap is about a Belfast, Ireland hip-hop trio that is determined to rap in the Irish mother tongue. It is not only based on a true story, it features the actual people it concerns playing themselves in wildly entertaining fashion. They are former Belfast teacher JJ, moonlighting as a mix master, and the fast-rapping delinquents Nios and Liam Ogg, as they try to keep the word alive, as in, the classic Irish language. They're up against family members, prudes, cops, government officials, local rivals, and they're also dealing with their own flaws and excesses. Sex and drugs and hip hop? Yeah, what's the issue? Anyway, I have to say the music is killer. And the performances are absolutely hilarious and engaging. These guys, I literally thought it was, fiction or actors performing the main roles. And when I learned it was actually the guys themselves, I was doubly impressed.
So they're rapping in their native tongue?
Yeah, and I guess it's Gaelic, right?
Yeah.
Is that what the Irish native tongue is?
Or is Gaelic Scottish?
No,
I don't know.
Gaelic is Irish, I think.
Is it Irish? Okay.
I believe so. I should have done the research, Kim. I apologize. Anyway,
no, this is very interesting.
The music is killer. The movie, written and directed by Rich Pepiot, is fast and funny and kind of inspiring. It's partly in English and partly in Gaelic with English subtitles for the latter. But their working class accents are so thick that I would have appreciated English subtitles for much of the English. But that's a minor quibble, to be honest with you. I have to say, I was dazzled by this thing. And you know who's in this? Acting in a significant role? Michael Fassbender shows up, the great leading man. And he's always good in whatever he does. And in this case, I was just, totally caught up in Kneecap. It didn't kneecap me. It is a banger of a film, and I mean that in all the best ways. Kneecap is in theaters.
Oh, it's in theaters. Okay, very cool. That's you've piqued my interest with that one, Michael Snyder.
It might be a little rough for you, Kim. I don't know, but
really? Okay.
You're tough-minded. You can put up with a little bit of the seamy side of life, because these guys are deep in the Belfast equivalent of the hood. So, all right. Do you remember the 1984 fantasy movie, The Neverending Story?
Yes.
Okay. Tammy Stronach, the little girl who played the Empress in that film, is back after many years and starring in a new family-oriented fantasy movie called Man and Witch: The Dance of a Thousand Steps. Now, I see Man and Witch, and I start thinking about sandwiches. How do you handle a hungry man and all that?
That's
not what this is. That's not what this is about. This is about a goat herd in a fantasy world, a kingdom where the animals talk to the camera, and he's kind of a schlub and kind of inept. by the way, played by a guy by the name of Glenn Steinbrunner, who in fact is also the screenwriter of this particular movie. It was, by the way, directed by a guy named Michael Hines. I've never seen any other credits for him. And, time is ever marching forward. So Tammy's grown up now. She's a full-on woman and pretty good here as the witch of the title. And in fact, she's better than the movie. I have no doubt that the filmmakers behind it hoped it to be the Princess Bride for the 21st century. And, boy, I sound so much like I'm hedging my bets this weekend. It isn't terrible, but it is not at the level of wit and whimsy of the Princess Bride. It's in that zone of fussy, mega-financed mediocrity where Harold and the Purple Crayon also exists,
Oh.
Anyway, so here's the weird rub in this film. The supporting cast, including people doing animal voices, is like so impressive. Shura Agdashlu plays the mother of the witch. Christopher Lloyd plays the father of the witch. Sean Astin does a lot of the narration. He's the voice of the dog. Michael Emerson, hardly visible here, is the evil wizard. Jennifer Saunders from Absolutely Fabulous is the voice of the goose, and Eddie Izzard is the voice of the sheep. And I guess it's a payday, and this is an even weirder aspect of it. Man and Witch only ran for 2 nights this past week in various theaters across the country via Fathom Events. I have no idea where and when it will crop up again, but I do think it should be at least streaming fodder for the little ones. It's, again, boy, I can't tell you. Michael Snyder says, not terrible. I just don't think that's what people are going to put on their posters. If I wasn't offended by it, kind of heavy-handed. But again, so much talent. I guess people got to eat, Kim.
When you say to me it gets trapped in mediocrity, I'm not excited.
I know, and the big names I mentioned, it's blink and you'll miss them, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know where the financing came from, but they made the film, and it's nice to see Tammy Stronach getting work. She is truly the best thing about this. I'm surprised we haven't seen her in more films. That's her front and center if you're looking at a poster of the movie.
You call this a family movie?
It is absolutely a family movie, not offensive in the least. This and Harold and the Purple Crayon are not going to have people clutching their pearls, I promise you.
All right. You have some streaming options as well, right?
You're absolutely right. That's what we want to talk about. Okay, you need to have access to the BBC iPlayer here in the States for this show, and eventually I think it's going to make it to Amazon, but I watched it last week, and I got a kick out of it. And I do like UK procedurals much better than the American dong. I don't watch Law and Order, but I do watch these little mini shows that the Brits do, and also our friends in Scandinavia and France. They all make some really great detective stories as serialized TV shows. The Jetty, which again is available on the BBC iPlayer, is a 4-episode procedural set in a Lancashire, England town. And it stars Jenna Coleman from Victoria. Remember, she played Queen Victoria in that terrific miniseries.
She was really good in that, yeah.
She was Clara Oswald in Doctor Who, a companion to both Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. And she was the Moll in the absolute great true crime thriller, The Serpent, which is one of my favorite miniseries of the past decade. Here, she is a perceptive but guarded detective, Ember Manning, a single mom whose investigation into a fire at a waterfront lodging drags her into revisiting a cold case that involved a missing teenage girl who might have been connected to Ember's late husband, Mac, who is the father of her teenage daughter, Hannah. So there's a lot of twists and turns here. A crusading podcaster is trying to solve the cold case, and that puts her at odds with Ember, who is very uneasy about potential blowback from any revelations. I thought The Jetty was very, very cool. It didn't, what do we like to say, reinvent the wheel, but it's quite good. And Jenna Coleman is always terrific.
Only 4 episodes, huh? That's interesting.
Yeah, and again, it's only available right now in the States on the BBC iPlayer, but, people have that. Here's something that's far more available. It's called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and it dropped on Netflix this week, and I have watched a couple episodes of it, and it is a very entertaining series about a teenage girl in small town England. And this girl named Pip is played by a young actress named Emma Myers. That's her. And for her project to help get into university over the summer, she decides to revisit a cold case. A local neighbor of hers, a pretty teenage girl, died unexpectedly or disappeared. No one is quite certain. And her boyfriend is accused of the murder and kills himself. And Pip decides she's going to solve the mystery. That's going to be her big project. And instead of, doing, a treatise on Chaucer, she's going to figure out the actual circumstances of the death of this local girl. And I was completely caught up in the first couple episodes. It's the work of screenwriter Poppy Cogan. I believe it's based on a book. It is a BBC production in conjunction with Netflix, so you can see it easily if you do have the streaming service. And I'm having fun with it. Now, I like the cartoons and the superheroes, right?
Yes, that's good. No, I'm looking. I'm looking for good stuff to stream because I've been stuck in this office for 7 days now, and it's pretty much all I have to do. So thank you. I'll put this on my list.
Yeah, this one is one you can get to easily. Now, again, like I said, I do love animation. I love superheroes, and I am absolutely over the moon for Batman Caped Crusader, which is available on Amazon Prime Video right now. It is the combined work of one of the two crucial creators of Batman the Animated Series, which in the 90s basically launched DC's animated universe that included a Superman series, a Justice League series, Batman Beyond, some of the very best sci-fi and superhero animation in memory. And this guy, Bruce Timm, who was the designer of some of these characters in Batman the Animated Series, Superman, etc., is one of the creators of Batman Caped Crusader and executive produces, along with J.J. Abrams, who you know from Lost and the Star Trek reboot and many, many other shows and films. Matt Reeves, who basically directed and wrote The Batman, the recent Robert Pattinson live-action movie about the Caped Crusader, and some other terrific creatives, Ed Brubaker, a noted graphic novelist, and James Tucker, another designer. It's very unique insofar as it goes back to the early 1940s designs and sensibility that marked the original Batman comics that came out in that era. So you can see the when you watch the pointier cowl and it's truly an Art Deco setting, which is glorious to look at. Hamish Linklater voices the Batman. Christina Ricci is the voice of Catwoman. Are you ready for a gender-swapped Penguin voiced by Minnie Driver? On and on and on and on. And a friend of the show and friend of Mark's and mine, Tom Kenny, lends his vocal talents. He is, of course, the voice of SpongeBob, but he does so many other characters, and he contributes to Batman Caped Crusader. It looks great. It's 10 episodes. Again, it's the designs from the early 40s for the most part, although they do some more modern creations like Renee Montoya, who is a gay Hispanic detective on the Gotham City police force. They make Commissioner Gordon and his daughter black, which is not jarring in the least if you watch the show. I was very impressed with Batman Caped Crusader. Really got a kick out of it.
All right.
And, finally, I will wrap up with Kite Man. Hell yeah, if you enjoyed the very profane Harley Quinn cartoon series on Max. Kite Man, hell yeah, is a spin-off of that about the inept supervillain running a bar that is actually catering to the supervillains of Gotham City. And it is oversexed and dirty and funny and crazy. And if you like Harley Quinn, which had the same sensibility, I think you're going to like Kite Man. Hell yeah. Not quite as good as the Harley Quinn TV cartoon, but, again, I like this kind of stuff. So I'm indulging you and the audience, Kim.
So this is swearing cartoon characters.
Yes, it is. So this is not for children. It's more for teens and up. Anyway, there you go. So that's, that's 4 and 4. 4 movies, 4 TV shows. We aim to please, Kim.
You really have. Let's recap it. Trap, you said it's not bad. You said it's kind of a bargain matinee kind of movie. That's about the M. Night Shyamalan thick of it. Harold and the Purple Crayon, you called dull and charmless. You said the good actors here are wasted, and you said this is one to stream from home at some point.
Yeah, if you have young kids, some of the actors look a little uncomfortable while they're going through their faces. I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe I was uncomfortable as I sat there and watched it. I don't know.
Kneecap, you recommend it. You said the music is great. It's fast, it's funny, and it's inspiring. Man and Witch, the Dance of 1,000 Steps. You said it's not terrible. You said it's a streamer. Yeah, but it's not terrible.
At best, it's pretty ham-handed,
I believe you called it that it got bogged down in mediocrity as well. The Jetty, you say it's really worth watching if you have the BBC iPlayer, that it's a 4-episode good show that you enjoyed. The Good Girl's Guide to Murder on Netflix. You are into this one. You say it's a yes. The Batman Caped Crusader, you said you were over the moon for Batman Caped Crusader. It's a definite yes for you. And the profane cartoon characters from Kite Man, hell yeah, on Max, you say yes to that as well. So that's it.
If you can put up with it. That's what we got. We've got our Giants playing on the road. I hope they do well. It's always a pleasure, Kim. Get better, Mark. And everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Michael Snyder. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Nice for you. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome, and fare thee well.
And go Giants. Michael Snyder, everybody. Always such a great job reviewing all the movies for us. Want to thank Jay Gar coming in with a $5 super sticker. Would it be too much trouble, he says, to list all of Michael Snyder's recommendations on your website? If not the website, you can definitely find them. We pull the segment that we've done with Michael Snyder, and in the description, you can definitely find it there. But that's a good idea. We'll take it under consideration, Jay Gar, and thank you for the contribution to the show. Absolutely. I hope all of you stay safe from COVID. It's going around out there, as evidenced by me and Nikki and now Mark falling ill with it. So if you're going to the movies, you're going somewhere, consider wearing the mask once again. Albert, fingers crossed you don't get it, my friend.
I don't like where this is going at all. We'll see how it goes.
You're definitely at risk to be the next one in line, but I hope it doesn't happen. So be careful.
Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
The After Party Live is next. Please meet me there on YouTube. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.